Hello and welcome to another episode of Statford Bridge, Chelsea by the numbers. Chelsea draw Brentford 2-2, and there's going to be a lot of reactions because of how this game breaks down. Um, and it's always a classic Kieran to come back from the international break and say, I don't know, it was fine. So listen, let's just start with the lineup and then we can talk about the data. Chelsea started a heavily rotated team, mostly due to the fact that they have a bunch of injuries and a bunch of guys who traveled very heavily for their international break. Marc Cucurella does not start because he played 180 minutes for Spain, who traveled, I think, to Azerbaijan or something crazy. So João Heito starts. We have seen that he's just not that good yet. Wesley Fofana starts at right back as part of his rehab regime. Again, it's a role he did a few times last year to mixed effect. Caicedo starts because he never not starts. Gittins starts ahead of Estevao, who does not dress because of his heavy load with Brazil. And Cole Palmer is on his way back from injury, so Buonanotte starts. Not an amazing team. However, the match plan here was very clearly similar to the same thing we did against Brentford away last year, which also came in the middle of fixture congestion, where they started a rotated team, get to halftime, bring the big guns on, win the game, as it were. The problem with this game is that Chelsea did not get to halftime even. They went in 1-0 after a goal that is very frustrating because Tosin, it's kind of a nothing transition. Tosin may be the worst recovery defender in the team because his strides are so long that he often overcommits past players and they're able to chop back to their strong foot. We saw it against Ipswich last year for Liam Delap, who then set up Omari Hutchinson. We see it basically all the time, and we see it for the first goal here, where he long ball in behind, he recovers, gets chopped back to his right foot, guy shoots through his legs, shoots through his legs, deflection, goal. And it's somewhat unfortunate because a lot of times that deflection is just a block, but it's a goal. And Enzo Maresca, to his credit, lots of early subs. We see Buonanotte comes off at halftime. Heito comes off at halftime. Fofana comes off at halftime. We see Tyreek George come on. We see Reece James come on. We see Marc Cucurella come on. We see Cole Palmer come on 56 shortly after that for Jamie Gittins, who was basically not on the field. And then Alejandro Garnacho comes on with 10 minutes left in the game plus added time. And we saw a couple things. One, Cole Palmer, still very good at football. Fought Mob through FB Ref, have him at point from open play for the first time in the league since January. He had another amazing chance that on many other days he scores. No qualms with Cole Palmer's performance. I thought he was very good. 3 box shots and a half. You're happy. Whew. Excuse me. Also, what I will just caveat all of the analysis here, call it that if you will, is that I did not watch the game live. I watched it at midnight after a very large amount of red wine at a wedding. So take these takes with what you will. And Cole Palmer scores. Caicedo scores off of a Garnacho cutback that is half cleared to him, 6-1 in the top corner. And then Chelsea concede from a long throw-in. Okay, there's the recap of the game. You watched the game. It's fine. What do we see from the data? What do we see from the players? One, it's basically even on XG. Brentford get by far the biggest chance at 0.7. Chelsea create 2 really good chances. They score one. They don't score the other one. I think if you think about this model, so what's funny if you compare it to Dimitri's model, Dimitri's model has the 2 Cole Palmer chances as humongous. And I think it likes the first one too much, but I think it's correct on the second one. And I think Opta are not correctly clocking how good the second chance is for Palmer. But I think both models are probably underrating the Carvalho chance a little bit. It is probably higher than 0.7 in my opinion. But really, the story of the game here is like, should Chelsea be disappointed with a draw in this situation? And to me, the short answer is no. Fresh off an international break against a pretty solid defensive team at home, you get a draw with no real risks, no real problems. A lot of times you win the throw in. There's questions of offside. I think you can have that decision go either way, and it's defensively refereed. I see a lot of people saying like the comment from the VAR is that whether the Brentford attacker was involved or not is subjective, because the wording and the laws of the game are makes an attempt on the ball that impacts a defender. And I think it is legitimately subjective whether Reece James is impacted or not. And I think it's fine to not jump in. I think it's fine if you did jump in, but they did not. And I think that's okay. But I am also of the view that Chelsea are trying to consolidate Champions League today. You can look at the bar at the top, Champions League consolidation. If you get to 70 points, 75 points, and you're comfortably a Champions League team, like that's a goal. That's fine for this year. If you want to be a title team, you probably have to pull out a win here. And that I think is ultimately, do we take from this game and say, okay, Chelsea want to be a title team maybe next year, maybe this year? What has to get fixed? And I think there's a few pretty obvious things you look at. Jamie Gittins is like just not even close to being a productive Premier League player. Like so far away. It is unbelievable. And it's all the things we talked about. You can go back and watch my video on Gittins, and I said he's very fast, and that's the whole thing he does. He's fast and he kicks the ball hard, and like that's great, but he has very little ability to create separation. So Brentford go back 5, and like you can see Brentford shape, like he gets the ball and he doesn't really get to dribble at guys because he's just getting jammed every time he receives it. Like he has 3 box touches in 60 minutes in a game that Chelsea had a tremendous amount of field tilt, just no ability to generate pressure. He takes 1 shot from very far away. He creates basically nothing. And I'll give him credit. He has a moment in the second half where he makes a good run to the back post and Tyreek George doesn't find him. Fine. But he has now played in like every match, and he is yet to do even like one good thing. And so I look at it, I'm like, I just would not play him. Like he is in the same place to me that Mudryk was. And I've made this point before, I think, that he's a very similar player. Same amount you sold Nani Madueke for, who is really good. That's crazy. And I understand left versus right, whatever, but like it's wild. So there's culprit number 1 is like you just got to get more out of the wingers. I thought Neto had an okay game. Opt to have him at 0.33. Dimitri has him like quite a bit higher. I'm not sure what. I assume that's the Palmer cutback chance. That's the big difference here. Excuse me. And I think Neto has had like broadly an okay season for him. Like I'm sure if I pull up FB ref, like he's 0.4, which is just very Pedro Neto. But like it's fine. He works hard defensively and is somewhat productive at the other end. Like that's just what he is at this point. That's probably not enough if you want to win the league. Gittins doesn't give you that much. Tyreek George, who is playing an awful lot for a player who was 15 minutes away from the deadline from moving permanently to Fulham. He had 1 decent chance that he should probably square to Gittins earlier. He doesn't. Didn't create anything really as a passer. I don't love the minutes with him as a 9. I don't think it really works at all. And like, okay, sure. I mean, Enzo Maresca's post-match comments were that he wanted to give confidence to Tyreek instead of dressing Mark Guiu in the squad, which like seems an odd one to me if you're going to bring Guiu back to let Jackson go. Like really that's the original sin here is like if Jackson starts this game, for example, or comes off the bench in this game, like that's a pretty big boost, I think. And really, you just look at the winger core and you say, okay, well, Garnacho came on and in 20 minutes gave you something like zero 0.1 XA off of a cutback to Palmer. A cutback to Palmer that ends up on the edge here. And that's great. I think he's going to give you a lot of output, certainly more output than Gittins is going to give you, in my opinion. And that's really good and useful. But if your winger core is Neto, Gittins, Garnacho, Esteval, and Esteval is the only one who gives you like a really high amount of output, and maybe that's Garnacho as well, but if Esteval is the only one who gives you a really high amount of output, it's like, well, what are we doing here? Every other team that's challenging for the title gets legit goals from their wingers. Arsenal gets legit output from Saka, and then very good output from Martinelli and Madueke and Trossard and like the other guys they play there, Nwaneri, whatever. City get goals and assists from their wingers. So Liverpool obviously get loads of goals from Salah and Gakpo and Luis Diaz last year and Diego Jota, and they will from whoever plays as a left winger this year, blah, 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 blah. Like, to me, the thing is you just have to look at the wingers and like what's coming from the wingers. And like you have spent 60 million, 60 million, 40 million, 30 million on Esteval. Like you've spent 190 million. And like, do you feel like you're getting 190 million worth of output from the wingers? You look at the nines. I think João Pedro was like a solid signing who can do winger things, 9 things, 10 things, all of the above. You have one injury in Delap, and all of a sudden everything up top is a mess for the strikers. Everything is a mess. Because João Pedro maybe is probably better as a 10 than a 9. You have Mark Guiu. We'll see what Guiu is. I think he'll be useful, but like, what are you doing? Is that what you want? So like, and I said this last year, if you look at the Premier League table from last year, and I said, if you want to go from being 4th to a real title challenger, it is less that you have to make up 5-10 goals on the defensive end, and it is more that you have to make up 20 goals on the attacking end if you want to be there. And like Chelsea don't feel 20 goals better to me this year. I think they're better than last year. I just don't think there's 20 goals there. And now I'm not going to overreact to one game. We play Bayern this week. That'll be a really interesting test. Let's see. Still unbeaten. Still 3 points up from last season. If you look at the sexy spreadsheet. Better on goal difference. The XGA is better in small sample size. The XG is identical. The shots for a little bit better. Shots against a little bit better. Definitely more field tilt. This is something I really want to keep my eye on. Is the box touches again seem way down. Way down. Very curious to keep my eye on this one. Because even at the beginning of last season when Chelsea were ripping teams, the box touches against were still higher. Very curious to see how this plays out moving forward. And that's kind of where we're at. It's definitely 2 points dropped, but you're not that mad about it. Also, Hato is not very good, but that's a whole separate thing. The other interesting thing that came up this week was Chelsea signed Emmanuel Amiga from Strasbourg, who won 1-0 today. And we don't know the fee yet. If we've seen it, I haven't seen it. The deal is allegedly for 2026, whatever that means. I wonder if Chelsea maintain the ability to bring him in January instead of in June, if they really need to. But broadly, I like the signing. I think the world where you keep Jackson for the season, he gets another run, and then you decide whether you want to keep him, and you move one of him or Delap or whatever next summer. and Omega comes in, I think is very legit. Um, as a player, I think he's actually kind of an awkward fit for someone like Chelsea. Like he does actually nothing but take amazing shots in the box and literally nothing else. He does not link play. He's an okay defender in that he like runs, but like very low defensive activity because he's the main transition guy. He doesn't even take that many shots, but he takes amazing shots. Like he just gets wide open in the box somehow all the time for breakaways and for tap-ins and for cutbacks and for squares and whatever. Like you look, it's like shot volume not that high, but like the shots are in amazing locations. He's scoring a lot of goals from them. They're very close. The XG per shot is stupid high. He completes a lot of passes, but he doesn't touch the ball really at all. He's not he's not like being progressive or creating chances for other people. Like this guy does nothing but get shots in the box. I think for Chelsea, that's a useful profile to have as a backup. Like someone made the comparison of him to Loic Remy, and I think that's a bad comparison because I think Loic Remy was a much more talented footballer than Omega is. Um, but in the same role of like, you're going to be the striker in games against teams where we don't need the striker to do possession stuff, and you're just going to beat the shit out of bad teams. That I think is valuable. And I think if the price is appropriate, he's a pretty easy like 2 years at Chelsea and flip. Um, he will be 23 by the time he gets to Chelsea. You keep him 2 years, 25. You move him for like 20, 25, like similar to Jackson ish, something like that. Um, but I think it's like fine squad planning. I think it's useful, and I think the wording on available in 2026 is very interesting. And I would not be shocked if we found him at Chelsea in January. Anyways, that's all from me. We play Bayern midweek. You'll have a reaction podcast to that, and then we will see you have in the league next. United, maybe. Uh, yeah, United next weekend, and we will have a stream after that. So, anyways, that's all. As I said, as always, enjoy the soccer.